forget to like, comment, and subscribe, won't you? Because this is a show by the people, for the people, and you, my friends, are my people. So jump in, participate, comment, let us know what you're thinking, because that is just the way we like it. In today's program, I'll be joined by 1974 National League MVP Steve Garvey, a baseball great from my youth. I'm excited about that. And which NBA superstar is clapping back at Stephen A. Smith and criticizing his political ambitions, or at least flirtations? We'll have that for you and more. A generous helping of Super 70 Sports tweets, as always. But let's begin with the NFL draft and Travis Hunter's future, which is going to begin, I suppose, a week from tomorrow with him being drafted by somebody. And we know he's going to go very early. The only question is where's he going to go? Looks like he's going to be the second pick or the third pick. Who's going to take him? We'll find out. Is he going to be a Cleveland Brown? There's one thing that is for certain, however, with Travis Hunter, and he is a unicorn. We haven't seen anybody like him in a long, long time. I'm 53 years old. I haven't seen anybody come out of the ranks of college football who is like Travis Hunter. This is a guy who played both sides of the ball in Boulder, won a Heisman Trophy doing it. He has the potential to be one of the best cornerbacks that we've ever seen in the NFL. And we also saw him put up tremendous offensive numbers last year with Shedeur Sanders throwing to him. What's going to happen in the NFL? Well, it seems like NFL teams view him more as a cornerback than a wide receiver, that his greater value will be on the defensive side of the ball. But Travis has been very clear the entire time that we have been going through this process that he intends to play both offense and defense in the NFL. And now he's gone so far as to tell CBS Sports' Garrett Podell that if it came down to playing not in the NFL at all or playing on only one side of the ball, he actually knows what his decision would be. Let's roll tape.
If you had to choose between playing only one position in the NFL or never playing football again, what would you choose?
Just never playing football again.
That's how passionate you are about playing both positions. Why is that?
Yes, I've been doing it my whole life. And I love being on the football field, and I feel like I can dominate on each side of the ball. So I really enjoy doing it.
We've never seen anybody do it, not in modern times. I mean, I remember when Chuck Badnarik was a 60-minute guy. I mean, I don't remember it. I'm not that old, but I remember watching NFL films and hearing about the 60-minute men of the old school NFL. And that is not something in the increasing age of specialization that we see all across sports. You see it in baseball, more and more and more relief pitchers. Starting pitchers aren't going as long. We see increasing specialization in other sports. I did not think that we were going to have a guy showing up potentially in the NFL to play full-time on both sides of the ball. Now, whether or not an NFL team is going to say to Travis Hunter, yeah, we're going to let you get as many snaps on offense as you're getting on defense, I think that remains to be seen. I understand Travis Hunter's sentiment, but when it comes down to it, if he's able to, take 20, 30 snaps on offense and play full-time on defense, I assume everybody will eventually all be happy with that, including Travis Hunter. But it's a question that we simply haven't seen addressed in the NFL in a long time. So it certainly bears watching, and we'll find out where he is going to be drafted just slightly over a week from today. Shout out, by the way, Travis might quit if he doesn't get to play both sides of the ball, but there's no quit in Chris Paul. And I want to applaud the grizzled veteran, Chris Paul. Take a look at this. Chris Paul just finished his 20th year in the league. Shout out to Chris, fuck your load management, Paul, for starting all 82 games this year for the San Antonio Spurs 20th year in the league, and for a 34-48 team that was going absolutely nowhere, it's called being a professional, motherfucker. Look at that. Nobody had to tell the 20-year veteran to show up and be in the lineup. That's Michael Jordan mentality. That's Kobe Bryant mentality. We could use a little more of it in the league. So hopefully the young players on the Spurs, if not young players all around the NBA, took notice of what Chris Paul did this season. I applaud you, sir. Well done. Now, back to Boulder, Colorado for a moment. The Shedeur and Travis Hunter era was short. Has there ever been more hoopla over... I mean, look, I don't want to downplay it. Colorado needed it needed an injection of life, and Dion has given it, and Shedeur and Travis Hunter were a big part of it. However, they went 13-11 there in 2 years together in Boulder, but it's not going to stop Colorado from retiring their jerseys. Yeah, that's right. Coming up, take a look at this. Saturday, April the 19th, this very weekend, Shedeur and Travis will have their numbers retired. Nobody is going to wear number 2 or number 12 again for the Colorado Buffaloes. Some people are saying that Shedeur, maybe we're kind of stretching it a little bit here. Hunter won the Heisman Trophy. Okay, retire his fucking jersey. He played both sides of the ball. Nobody's going to come along and do that for a while. Shedeur, look, I'm not saying the kid's not a great player. I'm not saying he didn't have a great season. But you're going to get your... Cordell Stewart's jersey number is not retired, by the way. Remember Cordell Stewart? Brian Drake here tweeting, Cordell doesn't have his number retired. He won 2 bowl games, finished in the top 10 twice, but he wasn't the coach's kid. Colorado is an unserious program. Well, I don't know if they're an unserious program. Look, they're having fun. Retire the number, I guess, if you want to, but I don't know. Cordell Stewart, maybe at least bring him in. I hope next year, at some point, you bring in Cordell Stewart and retire his jersey number 2, because you're kind of dissing him here. How quickly we forget our great players. As long as we're retiring numbers, somebody needs to retire this sweet bastard's number. What was his number? He didn't have a number, but look at this. Norman Fell, one of the greats of all time, Mr. Roper himself, as many of you no doubt remember. First ballot breaking the fourth wall Hall of Famer. Nobody did it better. You know what breaking the fourth wall is? Do I have to explain this to some people? It's when you look at the camera and you acknowledge the audience. Because when we're watching a show, they're not supposed to know that we're watching them, right? So you don't do that. But there are certain people who've done it to great effect. Who's on the short list of breaking the fourth wall guys? Burt Reynolds was a great breaking the fourth wall guy. Remember when he would look at the camera when he was Bandit? He did that well. John Krasinski from The Office. How about that? All right? One of the all-time breaking the fourth wall guys. The expressions that he would make looking at the camera. But Norman Fell, nobody did it better, if you ask me. All right. Now, pivoting to a guy that nobody is accusing of doing it better than anyone, Nico Harrison, the Dallas Mavericks general manager, is speaking out for just the second time since the Luka trade, saying there's no regrets. Really? 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 No regrets? Mavericks finished 10th in the West. The Lakers finished 3rd with Luka. Put a lot of life into the Lakers. They got a hop in their step that they didn't have before the trade. The Mavericks, on the other hand, go 13-20 after the trade. Partly because Anthony Davis missed an extended period of time, but Anthony Davis is on the wrong side of 30, and he's got an injury history. So don't act like you're shocked. This trade is so fucking bad. So fucking bad. There is no excuse that can be made for it. Some people have made excuses for it. Well, it wasn't that bad. Well, they still have a really good team. Well, their roster is constructed better now to make a playoff run. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Sometimes the simplest take is the right one. And the simple take, the reason that a lot of us could not believe that this trade was real when we first heard it. And you remember that. I remember Ronnie T-shirts texted me, said, hey, look at this. I'm not sure if this is real or not. We all wondered if it was real because it was so fucking stupid. And what you're seeing Luka do in LA is already bearing that out. Yeah, he's one of the 5 best players in the NBA. He's 26 years old. What were you thinking? How Nico Harrison still has a job, I do not know. I do not know. And whoever signed off on it, sell the team. Do something. Unbelievable situation in Dallas. I feel for their fans. Much in the same way that I feel for anybody who was trying to share an arcade with this motherfucker. Take a look at this guy. There is such a thing as etiquette in the arcade. I know maybe the young kids don't know, but those of us who grew up in arcades, you'll understand that this guy is basically doing the arcade equivalent of double parking. Unnecessary spreadage, 15-yard penalty, repeat first down. How am I supposed to get in there and play a video game? Look at him. I mean, he's triple parking. This motherfucker has called dibs on an entire row of Centipede games. I hope that's not what he does at the urinal when he goes to the restroom, because he's leaving us with only one option. You got to slide in over there on the far right if you want to share room with that guy. Not good. All right, Stephen A. Smith. Can't believe we've made it this far into the program without mentioning Stephen A. Smith. We must remedy that because Stephen A. is in the news every day. He's not covering the news. He's making the news. And that's just the way that he likes it. Kevin Durant took a shot at Stephen A. And of course, there's nothing Stephen A. likes better than getting into a feud with an NBA player. Kevin Durant tweeting, Steve is trying to run for president. You think he actually paid attention to a struggling team? It's called propaganda. This in response to Stephen A. Smith saying that Kevin Durant lacks leadership. Well,
are we allowed to say?
Let's listen to Stephen A.
Are we allowed to say anything, Marcus? I mean, come on, man. But we just talked about his greatness, the Hall of Fame and all of this other stuff. But there's a residue of crumbs all over the place about things that have transpired in the career of Kevin Durant. We might question something here and there, but nobody disrespects this man. I love the guy. I don't disrespect him. I'm simply saying elements of leadership that other people may have had to galvanize a team is something that he hasn't seen to have. I either put 98% of the blame on Matt Ishbia, the owner. So obviously you can't say anything.
Kevin Durant saying that it goes back to July 4th, 2016, which is the day that he signed with the Golden State Warriors. The 73-9 Golden State Warriors. The same Golden State Warriors that he came damn close to eliminating in the Western Conference playoffs as the best player on the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's where he lost a lot of us, myself included. Look, Kevin Durant is a historically great player. There's no question about it. Seems like a decent guy, too, from what I can gather. But that move, you could have stayed in Oklahoma City and you could have tried to take down Golden State in an honorable way. You almost did in 2016. You damn near got them, let them off the hook. And what did you do? You said, if you can't beat them, I'm going to join them. And you went there and you got 2 championships. You got 2 finals MVPs. but you went to a 73-9 team and you shot fish in a barrel. And you're going to have to live with it for forever because you were good enough that you could have won one without taking the cheat code to get there. That's the thing. It's not that you're not a great player. You're a great player. There's no question about it. You're a historically great player. But you made a choice that you were going to take the easy path, the easiest path. Going to a 73-9 team. You deserve all the criticism that you get for it. I'm siding with Stephen A. on this one. To college football. All right. The big story, unless you've been living under a rock this week, is that Nico Iamaleava, I will henceforth refer to him as Nico, as most people do, basically went into holdout mode at Tennessee. Tennessee's quarterback took him to the playoff. Decided that he's worth more money and he wanted his pay to be doubled. And so he put Tennessee in a really tough spot saying, pay me. Right here in April, here we are. Pay me. I want more money. And guess what? Tennessee decided, we're not going to pay you. Hit the bricks, pal, and see where you can go. And right now it looks like it's not going to go as well for Nico as Nico had hoped for, although we shall see. Let me bring in now special college football correspondent to the Ricky Cobb Show. I speak, of course, of the international streaming star who joins me from Nashville, Tennessee. He is, of course, Ronnie T-Shirts. Ronnie, I know you've been following this. This kid is a tremendous player, had a tremendous season last year, and wants to be paid tremendously.
Did he? Did he have a tremendous season?
Well, his team had a tremendous season.
You see his stats against SEC teams? You see what he did against Ohio State? Tremendous? I don't think so, Ricky. I think he absolutely got bad advice from his dad or his uncle. He misplayed his cards, and shout out props to Josh Heupel and Tennessee for saying, you know what? You are out of here. We do not want you here. And I think this is a good thing for college football because maybe other guys that think that they're better than they are, maybe they won't try to hold their current teams hostage. And, you know, you always need the first team to stand up so the other teams maybe will stand up too. I mean, there's not going to be any collusion where all the coaches get together and say, okay, don't cave into these people. But if they see that it's okay and somebody else did it, and Tennessee's a very prominent program, maybe if somebody else does it, they're gonna stop letting the players rule what's going on. Nico absolutely is not a $4 million player. You know, that is, you know, I always go back to Ohio State because it's what I know. But Jeremiah Smith, our freshman wide receiver from last year, if he went to Ohio State and said, I want more, he'd probably get it. He's the best wide receiver in college football, and he's one of the main reasons we won the national championship. But Nico, and it's going to be funny because he's probably going to end up getting about $1 million at a school like Tulane.
Well, Tulane has already moved on from him, from what I understand.
Oh, have they? Okay, I saw yesterday Tulane.
North Carolina has as well. But you can see here, OutKick's own David Hookstead tweeting, people acting like Nico is a star must not be able to read stats. His stats in games against Arkansas, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State: 1 passing touchdown, 2 interceptions, averaged 158 yards passing a game. Tennessee will be fine. UCLA is a name that's in the mix. Look, what was he making? About $2 million?
$2 million. Well, you want to hear, something funny about the UCLA thing? So again, I hate to be a tax guy, but there's no state income tax in Tennessee. And the state income tax in California is one of the highest in the nation. So for him to even get the $2 million that he was getting at Tennessee, he's going to have to, I don't know, get somewhere in the threes from UCLA. So yeah, he made a bad decision on how he played this.
Yeah, I will say it appears that he did. And it's an interesting case, right? Because right now, with there being such a lack of regulations, we hear people saying it's the Wild West era. That's what I've called it, but that's what a lot of people have called it, because that's what it is. And right now it's like, okay, anybody else who's sitting out there who's got stars in their eyes, who are thinking that this is going to be a good tactic to pursue, I think it's a good message for everybody to see that it's not going to work out famously for this kid. And anybody else who thinks that it's going to be a good strategy for them probably should rethink that before they make a mistake themselves.
Well, the other thing that hopefully other players are going to learn from is, his dad, from what I understand, acts as his agent. That's not a good recipe for success. Like there's a reason you have agents when you're a football player or you're a media person, is because you don't want to go in and have these contentious conversations with the person that's writing your paycheck. You let somebody else go in there and act on your behalf and get things done that way. Your dad is your agent. Things get emotional. Things get taken the wrong way. Panties get in a bunch, whatever you want to say. It's not a good idea to have a family member be your agent in these situations, in my opinion.
Ron, let's stay with college football for a moment. What do you think about Travis Hunter? This kid is convinced that he can play the entire game on both sides of the ball. I saw Dion make some comments where he said the NFL game is not as fast-paced as the college game. So therefore, Dion says he believes that Travis Hunter could do it. Is an NFL team going to be willing to say, okay, this is what you want, this is what we're going to do? Because I don't think that he is as great of a prospect on the offensive side of the ball as the defensive side of the ball. But is this going to be something where wherever he goes, there's going to be some contentiousness if he's not getting as many snaps on offense as he thinks he deserves?
I think that you're crazy if you draft him. You're crazy if you don't at least give it a shot and see what happens. But I think, like with anything else, you can say whatever you want. You can posture right now and try to control your own narrative. But the truth is, he's going to get drafted by somebody, and they're going to most likely try this. And if it works, then great. And if it doesn't work, he'll settle into being a defensive back if that's what they want. There's no chance he's going to not play football, Ricky. If the team that drafts him says, yeah, we don't feel comfortable having you on as a receiver. You're too important to us as a defensive back. I really have a hard time thinking that Travis is going to say, yeah, I quit. I don't see it happening.
I don't think that would be a great career move.
No.
At this juncture.
No.
For Travis to do that. But it's definitely going to be interesting, because I don't know that he's going to get as many snaps as he wants. He thinks he's going to go in and just do what he did in Colorado, and I'm not sure if on the offensive side of the ball he's ready for that. Even if he was just a wide receiver, I don't know the impact that he would make as a rookie.
Well, the truth is we're not talking about a college team here. We're talking about professionals. And even the worst team in the NFL, their wide receivers are badasses, right? So he's going to have to be better than the 4 wide receivers that are already on the team. And that's not necessarily going to be the case. So I think whoever drafts him is 100% going to give him an opportunity to prove that he can do it. And if he can, great. And if he can't, he will settle into being a defensive back.
Ron, did you see yesterday? Yesterday was a big day in baseball, Jackie Robinson Day. Every year on April the 15th, the one number that is retired in all of Major League Baseball becomes the only number that we see on the field, as everybody wears Jackie Robinson's number 42. And there you see it. I think that is one of the best traditions
in
Major League Baseball. Yeah. Good stuff. April 15th, 1947. Jackie Robinson broke baseball's color barrier, and we recognize it every year now. You know, it's become one of my favorite traditions in MLB. It's great to see it.
Totally agree.
You know, Jackie Robinson, a trailblazer and an icon in every sense of the word, Ron. Caleb Williams revealing that he shed some tears over the course of this past season. He just simply wasn't used to the lack of success. The quote here from Caleb Williams, he says, "I'll be honest with you, I've never lost this much. When I got home, I got in my bed, I just dropped tears. I was just so beat up mentally and spiritually." This coming to us via Esquire. You know what? I'm not even gonna bag on the kid. At least he cares. You know, I want my quarterback to care. And I'm not going to say that you can't shed some manly tears. Don't let the fact that this kid paints his fingernails and cries lead you to believe that he's some kind of pussy. Ron, is what I'm saying.
Justin Fields is good. I'm back to Justin Fields wins a playoff game before him.
Oh, well, Justin Fields is on the Jets. He might be waiting an eternity to win a playoff game. You don't have the Pittsburgh Steelers organization to fall back on anymore.
I'm not sticking with it, man.
Dude, I think that Caleb is going to be a good NFL quarterback. Whether he's going to be a great NFL quarterback, time will tell. But I think he is going to have a successful career. I think that we are in pretty good hands with him, and I am inclined to cut him some slack for now. He had 20 touchdown passes and 6 interceptions for a team that has a shit offensive line. He led the NFL in getting sacked. So if he can get sacked 68, 69 times, whatever it was, over 4 times a game, and only throw
terrible
6
coaching and terrible coaching
during the year and terrible coaching. So, you know, we've got on paper one of the finest offensive minds in the NFL now, and Ben Johnson, who's now the guy that is overseeing this operation. So I think that things are going to be looking up. I expect Caleb Williams to have a strong sophomore season, and if he needed to cry it out a little bit, I'm not going to sit here and clown him for crying. I'm just
con him a little bit. Con him a little bit.
We need to do something about the fingernail polish. I will say that. I'll take the opportunity to criticize him by saying, stop with the fingernail polish, Caleb. Enough. Get out there. You never saw Johnny Unitas wearing fingernail polish. I'll tell you.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine that crew cut and some fingernails?
Yeah. We live in interesting times, don't we? I'm just trying to. Look, he gets a lot of the benefit of the doubt with me because I've seen all the quarterbacks that have come through this city in the last 20 years. Your buddy Jay Cutler is the standard. That's the bar that he's got to get over in the time that I've lived in Chicago. But it's been a long damn time since we've had a good quarterback. So I'm trying to kind of squint and see the kid in the best light that I possibly can. It is my great pleasure today to welcome my guest to the show. He is one of my favorite baseball players from my youth. I can rattle off a lot of his achievements without even needing notes. He is the 1974 National League MVP, the 1984 NLCS MVP, a 10-time All-Star, and the consecutive games played record holder for the National League. Steve Garvey joins the show. Steve, how are you?
Hey, Ricky. A great introduction. Keep going. I love it.
Well, Steve, I'm available for any sorts of PR that you need. I don't
know if I can afford you, but you sound great. That's good.
Yeah. Well, Steve, I want to start by talking a little bit about your great career. You are one of the finest players of your generation. I think that you certainly are deserving of Hall of Fame consideration. I mean, you were a lock. Every year, the Dodgers were great. You get 200 hits a year, drive in your 100, played a great first base. As you look back on that era now, Steve, I mean, you still look great, but we're
Thank
getting
you.
some years in the distance now when we look back on that
right.
era of baseball.
Right.
What would you like for today's generation to understand about the baseball that you played in the 70s and 80s, and maybe some of the ways that it was different than the game that we see today?
Well, Ricky, it's a great question because I was blessed to, and it's a longer story, but grow up in Tampa, Florida. And in the spring of 1956, I had a chance to bat boy for the Brooklyn Dodgers. My dad drove a bus for Greyhound, and that day he was his charter was to pick up the Brooklyn Dodgers from the Tampa airport and take them to St. Pete to play the Yankees in an exhibition game. And that day I got a chance to bat boy for. Well, my parents were from New York, so Dad was a Dodger fan, Mom was a Yankee fan. She gloated a lot, but the fall of '55, the Dodgers finally beat the dreaded Yankees, and they were world champions. So that day, I sat next to Gil Hodges and Roy Campanella and Duke Snyder and Jackie Robinson, and fortunately, my dad and two of the gentlemen were just starting the second Little League in Tampa, Florida. And that Saturday, 4 days later, I was going to play my first Little League game. So. And that was the beginning of about 8 years. They loved my dad, so 3 times every spring I would bat boy for the team. And growing up with your idols and listening to them in a simpler time when they were probably averaging about 30,000 a year, and those were guys played every day, maybe like the Snyders. And then 12 years after that first day at Michigan State University, I got a chance to be the first round pick by the Dodgers, and I guess the rest is history. But it was a simpler time. The economics were simpler, but I think the most important thing was the game really never quite changes. How it's played changes, but the simplicity, the timelessness of it was something I grew to love. I've been more or less of a historian. People say, "Do you follow the game?" I said, "Absolutely." I have a wonderful relationship with the Dodgers and the Padres a lot, but simpler times back then, probably the golden era from 73 to about 85, and I was fortunate to be part of it.
Well, Steve, let's talk a little bit about baseball in 2025 and how the game has changed. I was looking, particularly pitching, where now we've seen the complete game is an endangered species now. You still see one once in a while. It's very common to see guys leave no-hitters when maybe they haven't even thrown 90 pitches yet. It's just a different animal nowadays. In 1974, you guys had a reliever, Mike Marshall, who threw 208 innings out of the bullpen. 208 innings last year led the major leagues. Yeah. The most innings pitched. And I mean, obviously, you played with a lot of guys who were, throwing 250 plus innings, approaching 300 innings. When you look at the game today, what are the things that you like about it? And are there any changes to the game where you feel like something's been lost?
Well, Ricky, I love competition. My wife says, if I'm not sleeping, I'll be 1:30 in the morning watching, women's Big Ten volleyball, or something from somewhere, a soccer match. But, the evolution of eras where we went and played every day, that's what we did. Starting pitchers were paid for complete games. I think one year Sandy Koufax started 33 games and had 26 or 7 complete games. And now, pitchers are asked to go 5 good innings because it's a bullpen game. So when you're asked to go 5 innings, you're going to think and train for 5 good innings. And that means where maybe guys average 50, 60 pitches in 5 innings. Now they're probably up there in above the 80s because they're going to try to work the count more. They know that, they're going to be able to get in that many pitches. And so it's the evolution of the style of play and how they play. Sabermetrics has had a lot to do with that. But, the different eras, that's why it's tough to measure people in the Hall of Fame because you can't be generic in terms like 500 home runs, 3,000 hits, things like that. You have to look at the era and how that player played in that era. And the recent two inductees, especially Dave Parker that I played with, and Richie Allen early in my career. That was our era of, say, 70 to 90, where we played a certain way. So so be it. I love watching the game. Again, it's timeless. What's interesting is the pitch clock now has brought back the time of a game that had slipped to over 3 hours back to that 220, 225 amount of time that we played in. So the pace is good. I just don't want any more changes, so that you try to get to maybe a basketball game or a football game that's 2 hours and they're just about the same. Let the people get their money's worth if you get a good 10 or 12 inning game every now and then.
Yeah, how do you feel about the runner on second base in extra innings? Are you in favor of that, or do you not like it?
Yeah. Well, after 5 daughters, I finally had 2 sons, and we were very involved in traveling ball, and I coached the boys usually when they were 14 and 15. And it was a way to save the arms of the kids at a young age, which was fine. Then COVID came along, and I think that baseball decided, well, what can we do to maybe save, the arms of the pitchers and so forth? And they did that. So be it. It's not the game that you and I know, but every commissioner puts his stamp on the game, and I think things like the pitch clock and the runner on second and so forth are Commissioner Manfred's statements. So it's fine. But what's interesting is you would have thought more runs would score with that first runner, and ironically, it hasn't as much as people thought. So you're still getting a couple innings out of it, which is great.
Steve, you were talking about some of the great names in the history of the Dodgers organization. Hodges, Campanella. Obviously, you're one of those names. Shohei Ohtani, what he has done in his short career, is it, and I know he didn't pitch last year, but due to injury, he's going to be back out there this year. But when you look at the 50-50 season that he had last year, when you look at the fact that he has a season where he won 15 games as a pitcher and had over 200 strikeouts and is an outstanding pitcher when he's healthy, how can you put into context how special it is what Ohtani is doing? Because there are few people that know the game of baseball any better than you, Steve, and I didn't think that it was possible that it could be done, that somebody could be that good as a pitcher and a hitter simultaneously.
Well, he's a phenom, and if you were to see him, he's bigger than you think. He's about 6'5", probably about 215, 220. He can run. He's got great instincts. He's got the Japanese culture of how to train and the specifics of being prepared. They keep him pretty well isolated, which I think is fine. Everybody's, wondering, when's he going to pitch? When's he going to pitch? If I was the Dodgers and had, $700 million invested in him, I'm not so sure that, depending on how starting pitching is going, that I would use him this year. But they're saying later in the year, maybe September. Let's see what happens in the playoffs. But I would be more concerned about the long term for arguably the greatest player in history, greatest two-way player. But people forget that Babe Ruth pitched, and he had a number of World Series pitching records, and he went out and took the mound. But that was that at that time, and that was that era. And it even with that body he had, two different bodies, Ohtani and Babe Ruth. But what Ruth did and what Ohtani's doing now is special, and everybody should take time to watch.
Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.